Welcome the anointed ones. Sometimes the greatest wars are not fought with missiles, but with names written quietly on a list. Imagine this. Every morning, deep inside two of the world's most powerful intelligence agencies, CIA and MI6, a briefing room lights up not because of global crises, but because of you. Yes, you. While the public believes these agencies are locked in battles over terrorism, cyber warfare, and geopolitics, behind closed doors, their fiercest struggle may be much simpler. Who gets to recruit you first? Here's the part most people never realize. Agencies like these have entire departments dedicated to talent wars. According to declassified files, MI6 once scouted poets, playwrights, and even failed actors to serve as agents. And the CIA? They've been known to approach students before they even graduate, planting seeds long before careers even begin. It's not always the polished James Bond type they want. It's the unpredictable, the underestimated, the ones who don't even know they're being watched. That's where the tension lies. You're not just a potential employee, you're a potential weapon, a bridge, or a liability. Two giants of espionage circling the same target. You. Think about it. While you're worried about your phone battery dying at 17% somewhere, a panel of analysts is debating whether you belong in Langley or London. And here's the sprinkle of humor. Between the CIA and MI6, it's less who can protect democracy better, and more who gets bragging rights at the Christmas party if they land you first. So buckle up, because what looks like an ordinary life from your perspective might secretly be the center of a covert tug-of-war that reveals just how valuable you truly are. Number one, they're not fighting over what you do. They're fighting over what you could do. They're not fighting over what you do now. They're fighting over what you could do if someone shaped your gifts, pointed your focus, and gave you access to tools most people don't even know exist. Intelligence agencies like the CIA and MI6 don't waste energy on ordinary talent. They have endless files on the competent and the capable, but only a handful on the people they call force multipliers, individuals who could alter the direction of events simply by thinking differently. In their eyes, your resume today is just a rough draft. What you're capable of becoming tomorrow is the real headline. This is why their recruitment feels more like a chess match than a job interview. They're not interested in your current skill set as much as your potential to disrupt, to innovate, to outthink entire networks of people. They're looking for the rare person whose instincts are sharper than training manuals, whose insights can't be mass-produced. It's not about how well you fit into their system. It's about how much of their future could be built around you if they're the first to get to you. To them, potential is more valuable than experience. Experience can be duplicated, taught, or purchased. True potential is like an undiscovered resource, untouched, unpredictable, and impossible to replicate. They see you not as a candidate, but as an investment. In the intelligence world, investments aren't financial. They're psychological, strategic, and long-term. The person they bring in today could reshape the methods of tomorrow. This also means that what feels like interest is actually calculation. Every coffee, every call, every casual check-in is a data point for them to predict not who you are, but who you're going to be under pressure, under secrecy, under influence. Their internal question isn't, "Are you qualified?" but, "If we don't take you now, what could you become for someone else?" That's the real competition between them. The deeper truth is this: their battle for you is a backhanded confession. It's proof that your potential has already outgrown the box the world tried to put you in. They see a future version of you that you may not even recognize yet, and they're fighting to own it before you do. Number two, they don't see a recruit. They see an asset that could change the balance of power. You are not being viewed as a simple recruit. You are being assessed as an asset that could tilt the balance of power. To an intelligence agency, a recruit is a name on a payroll, someone who fills a role. An asset, however, is entirely different. An asset is a person whose influence, access, or unique abilities can open doors, redirect conversations, and shape events on a scale that ordinary operatives never touch. This is the frame through which agencies like the CIA and MI6 see you. They aren't trying to hire you the way a company hires an employee. They are trying to position you, to secure you, to hold you like a living key in a game where entire nations are the stakes. That's why the language they use is deliberately disarming. Opportunities, projects, missions. But the reality behind it is more strategic. They're not simply wondering how well you'd handle an assignment. They're calculating how your particular mind, your network, your instincts, and even your public persona could be leveraged to influence outcomes. To them, your personal beliefs, your credibility, your expertise, or even your silence can be more powerful than any weapon in an arsenal. When two powerful agencies want the same person, it's not flattery. It's confirmation that you represent more than a skill set. You represent a potential advantage. They can't risk falling into someone else's hands. The competition isn't about giving you a better offer. It's about control. They know that once your loyalty is secured, they don't just gain an operative. They gain reach into spaces and ideas they couldn't touch before. This view of you as an asset is also a double-edged sword. It elevates you beyond the ordinary, but it also means you are being assessed not as a human being, but as a tool of influence. Everything about you, your past, your relationships, your vulnerabilities, is mapped for its potential use. That's why the battle for you feels secretive, quiet, even invisible. It's not about a job, it's about ownership of a resource too rare to be left unclaimed. The truth is, if they're fighting over you, it's because in their eyes, you're not just someone who can follow orders. You're someone who can alter the course of the game itself. Number 3, your loyalty is the real weapon. They're fighting over. What they are truly battling for is not your talent, but your loyalty. Skills can be trained, knowledge can be taught, and credentials can be bought. But loyalty is something far rarer and far more dangerous to the wrong hands. In the world of intelligence, loyalty isn't just a nice trait to have. It's the very core of power. Without loyalty, even the most gifted operative is a liability. With it, even an average recruit can become a cornerstone of an agency's success. That is why you're not just being evaluated on what you can do, but on where your allegiance naturally leans, and how deeply that allegiance can be anchored. Both the CIA and MI6 know that your mind and your potential are valuable, but those things alone are not enough to trust you with secrets that could topple governments or sway global events. They're studying you not only to see if you can be molded, but to understand your moral compass. What will make you stay? What will make you break? What principles would you never betray, even under pressure? This isn't about employment. It's about ownership of your deepest convictions. The battle for your loyalty is also a psychological one. Offers of prestige, access, and resources are not random perks. They're tests. They're watching to see which bait you respond to, which values you uphold when nobody's looking, and which line you refuse to cross. They're not only assessing your loyalty to them, but your loyalty to yourself. Because an operative who betrays their own principles is unreliable, unpredictable, and eventually uncontrollable. This is why their interest feels intense but strangely quiet. They know that loyalty can't be demanded. It has to be cultivated. It's not a contract you sign, but a bond you form, often unconsciously. In their world, it's not enough for you to do the work. They want you to believe in the work, to defend it, to carry it like a second skin. The real weapon they're fighting over is your willingness to align your soul with their mission. That kind of loyalty is priceless because once they have it, they don't just have an asset. They have someone who will guard their interests as fiercely as their own. Number 4, their background checks aren't to protect you. They're to disassemble you. Background checks sound like they're about safety, about making sure everyone is who they say they are. In reality, when it comes to agencies like the CIA and MI6, they're not simply verifying facts. They're dismantling you piece by piece. Every detail of your life becomes a thread they pull to see what unravels. They don't just want your history, they want your patterns, who you trust, what makes you hesitate, where your pride lives, where your shame hides. These aren't curiosities to them. They're tools. When they run their checks, they're not building a profile of who you've been. They're building a blueprint of how to shape you. Your childhood, your traumas, your failures, your victories, your private contradictions, all of it becomes data for them to map your vulnerabilities and your strengths. They're not interested in the you the world knows. They're interested in the you you've never shown anyone, the one who comes out only under stress or temptation. This is where they decide not only whether you're useful, but how you can be redesigned to serve their needs. In their hands, your background isn't a biography. It's a deconstruction manual. They strip away layers of your identity until they find the core, your unpolished self, and that's where they start building. They know that training alone doesn't create loyalty. Transformation does. By breaking you down, they get to decide what gets rebuilt. They decide which principles to reinforce, which fears to exploit, and which habits to erase. This process is why recruitment often feels like seduction and interrogation at the same time. You think they're looking for reasons to trust you, but they're also looking for the pressure points that will make you dependent, compliant, or fiercely committed. The polished offer at the end isn't a job. It's the final stage of a process that began long before you knew you were being considered. By the time you sign, they already know which version of you they want walking into their building. The harsh truth is they don't hire who you are today. They hire the clay version of you they can mold tomorrow. Every background check is less about protection and more about possession, an invisible disassembly line preparing you to fit perfectly into a machine you didn't build. Number 5, they don't want your past, they want your weak spots for the future. They're not obsessed with your past out of curiosity or formality. They're obsessed with it because it's a map of the terrain they intend to operate on. Every secret you've buried, every unresolved pain you've carried, every quiet insecurity you've hidden behind a strong face, these aren't footnotes to them. They're coordinates. Vulnerabilities are not just flaws in their eyes. They're potential levers of control. A hidden debt isn't simply a financial issue, it's a pressure point. A private fear isn't just a quirk, it's an access key. A strained relationship isn't just personal drama. It's a doorway they can walk through when they need leverage. This is why their interest in you feels so invasive and precise. They don't simply want to know who you were, they want to predict who you will be under stress, isolation, or temptation. They're not collecting your history like a scrapbook. They're building a tactical map of your future reactions. If they know what frightens you, they can decide when to scare you. If they know what tempts you, they can decide when to offer it. If they know what shames you, they can decide when to weaponize it. In intelligence, control rarely comes from chains. It comes from knowing exactly where to apply invisible pressure. The unsettling part is that this isn't always done with malice. Sometimes it's strategic preparation. They want to know your weak spots so they can manage them before someone else exploits them. But even that protection is still a form of ownership, because it means your inner life has been mapped like a battlefield before you even step into their world. The bigger truth behind this is simple but disturbing. In their game, your strengths may get you noticed, but your weaknesses keep you tied. By understanding your vulnerabilities more deeply than you do yourself, they gain a form of power that isn't loud or obvious but total. It means they can predict not just how you'll act, but how you'll break. They're not looking at your past as a resume. They're looking at it as a manual for shaping your future choices. In that way, your weaknesses become less like mistakes and more like hidden handcuffs waiting to be used. Number 6, the battle is not over your skills, but over your silence. What the agencies truly prize isn't your ability to perform dazzling tasks or master complex skills. It's your capacity to hold your tongue when every instinct wants to speak. In the intelligence world, silence isn't just a virtue, it's currency, leverage, and survival all rolled into one. Skills can be trained, taught, and replicated. Silence, on the other hand, can't be mass-produced. It has to be built into your character at a level so deep it becomes reflex, not discipline. That's why the real fight over you isn't about your technical expertise or your intelligence. It's about whether you can bury truths so effectively they may as well have never existed. For these agencies, every secret you keep is a shield and a weapon at the same time. It's a shield because it protects operations, people, and missions. It's a weapon because it can be used to destabilize opponents or create leverage when information becomes more valuable than gold. Without silence, even the most brilliant operative is a walking liability, a time bomb waiting to go off. This is why their evaluation of you goes far beyond resume lines. They're watching your temperament, your self-control, your instinct under pressure. Do you blurt? Do you hint? Do you confess under stress? In their world, a single careless word can undo years of work. Silence is also what separates an operative from an employee. Employees follow rules. Operatives embody discretion so completely that it becomes their second nature. It's not enough to keep secrets. You have to live as if they're part of your bloodstream. Agencies aren't competing for your skill set. They're competing for your capacity to disappear information inside you, to compartmentalize it without slipping. The deeper truth is that your silence isn't just about protecting them. It's about controlling you. A person who has learned to guard secrets so fiercely also learns to isolate themselves, to cut off parts of their life, to live in layers. In intelligence work, that isolation is seen as strength. In reality, it's the glue that keeps you bound to the agency. They're not only selecting you for what you can do, they're selecting you for how completely you can vanish the truth, even from yourself. Number 7, you're not being courted. You're being tested like a weapon. You're not being courted in the way most people think of recruitment. There are no flowers, no real warmth, and no genuine transparency. What feels like interest is actually a calibration exercise. Every handshake, every meeting, every carefully worded email is less about welcoming you and more about measuring you. They're not just observing your words. They're studying your micro-reactions, your pauses, your breathing, your ability to mask discomfort. This isn't an interview for a position. It's a field test to see how much you can handle before cracking, confessing, or rebelling. Agencies like the CIA and MI6 don't waste resources guessing who will survive the pressures of their world. They create miniature versions of that pressure before you ever set foot inside. They'll feed you incomplete information, change details without warning, or set up small ethical dilemmas just to see if you notice, comply, or resist. They're less interested in the answers you give than in how you arrive at them under stress. That's because a true operative isn't defined by what they know, but by how they think and react when everything feels unstable. The entire process is designed like a weapons test. When you build a weapon, you don't ask it politely if it works. You push it to its limits. You drop it, freeze it, fire it, and see if it misfires. They do the same to you. Can you operate under conflicting orders? Can you keep your composure while being deceived? Can you stay silent when every fiber of you wants to shout? These aren't abstract questions. They're real, orchestrated experiments designed to map your breaking points. This is why their approach feels strangely cold, even when it appears friendly. It's not about making you comfortable. It's about uncovering your reflexes. They want to know if you can function as a controlled instrument under chaos, or if you'll become unpredictable. In their world, predictability under pressure is priceless. So while you may think you're in the middle of a selection process, you're really standing inside a live simulation, being measured for resilience, pliability, and edge. They're not trying to see if you fit in. They're trying to see if you fire without jamming. Number 8. They're not recruiting you to protect you. They're recruiting you to protect themselves. When an intelligence agency moves to recruit you, it may look like an opportunity, a doorway into a secretive world of power and purpose. But behind the polished presentation and the talk of service lies a much colder reality. Their first instinct is not to protect you, but to protect themselves. These agencies exist in a constant state of risk management. Every piece of information, every individual with access to it, is a potential vulnerability. If you've stumbled upon something sensitive or hold knowledge they consider dangerous in the wrong hands, bringing you in isn't necessarily about giving you a mission, it's about keeping you contained. Recruitment in this context becomes less of a career offer and more of a containment strategy. By placing you under their umbrella, they gain legal, psychological, and operational control over what you know. Once you're inside, your access to certain truths can be restricted, your speech bound by non-disclosure agreements, and your freedom of movement quietly curtailed. On the outside, you're a wild card. On the inside, you're a known quantity. They would rather fold you into their system than risk you becoming a liability, or worse, a whistleblower. This isn't to say they're always malicious. It's simply how self-preservation works in institutions built on secrecy. Every sensitive operation is like a fragile ecosystem. One person outside the loop can cause leaks, exposure, or international fallout. Recruiting you neutralizes that risk. You're no longer an unpredictable element. They have your loyalty on paper, your silence enforced by law, and your life under their watch. And yet, this containment is often dressed up as empowerment. They'll frame it as giving you purpose, training, or protection from enemies you didn't know you had. But at its core, it's about consolidating control over information and the people who hold it. In their calculus, it's safer to turn you into an insider, even a reluctant one, than to leave you out in the open, where your choices aren't dictated by their rules. So when an agency seems eager to bring you into its ranks, it's worth asking not, what do they see in me, but what are they trying to keep from slipping through their fingers? Because in the world of intelligence, recruitment can be less about giving you power and more about taking theirs back. Number 9, they don't offer freedom. They offer a cage made of prestige. Joining an intelligence agency might look from the outside like stepping into a world of freedom, power, and global movement. The allure is undeniable: travel, influence, access to secrets, a sense of belonging to something bigger than yourself. But beneath that glittering surface lies a truth that few understand until it's too late. It isn't liberation at all. It's a cage, and that cage is built out of prestige. The shiny credentials, the special clearances, the aura of exclusivity, these are the bars. They don't restrain you physically, they restrain you psychologically. Once you're inside, you don't truly own your life anymore. Every conversation, every relationship, every decision exists under the shadow of secrecy. Confidentiality agreements aren't just paperwork. They're contracts that follow you for years, sometimes for life. They dictate what you can say, where you can work, who you can associate with, and even how you remember your own past. You are no longer a free person with a career. You become an extension of an organization whose priorities will always outrank your own. This golden enclosure is powerful because it doesn't feel like a cage at first. Prestige is a sedative. The badge, the clearances, the special treatment, all of it makes the restrictions seem like privileges. You convince yourself the limitations are worth it, that the trade-offs are noble. But over time, the invisible leash begins to tighten. Your personal identity blurs into your professional one. You can't talk about the best parts of your work. You can't explain your absences or your choices. Even your victories must be buried. And when you finally start to feel the weight of it, you realize the door you walked through doesn't easily open in reverse. The skills you learn are specialized. The contacts you gain are classified. The experiences you've had can't be shared. The longer you stay, the more your world shrinks to the size of the agency's rules, and the less you belong anywhere else. This is the hidden price of that badge. It's not just access, it's ownership. They don't give you freedom. They give you an identity you can't take off. It shines like gold, but it binds like iron. And once you're inside, you stop being just a person. You become property dressed up as prestige. Number 10, the battle over you is a battle over the future of information warfare. The fight to recruit you isn't about turning you into a trench coat wearing spy from an old Cold War movie. That world is gone. Today's battlefield isn't alleys and shadows. It's networks, algorithms, and minds. In this new arena, information itself is the weapon, and the people who can move, shape, and direct it are more valuable than any missile or drone. You're not being eyed for your ability to sneak documents out of locked rooms. You're being studied for your ability to influence perception, to interpret complex streams of data, and to steer narratives before they become reality. Agencies like the CIA and MI6 understand that wars now start in invisible spaces long before soldiers arrive. A single tweet can destabilize a market. A viral video can shift public opinion more effectively than years of diplomacy. An insider with the right network can alter an election without ever leaving their desk. They're not looking for operatives who can gather secrets. They're looking for operatives who can control the meaning of those secrets, who can plant, twist, or neutralize ideas so seamlessly it feels organic. In this new world, perception is power, and perception needs skilled hands to craft it. This is why the battle over you feels so intense. You represent more than a recruit. You represent a node in a web of influence. Your voice, your access, your instincts, and even your online presence are part of what makes you valuable. They don't just want to know what you'll do, they want to own the ripples you create. Because in information warfare, a single human node can have exponential impact, shaping public discourse, controlling digital currents, and reframing truths before they take root. But there's a darker layer. In this kind of war, you're not just gathering intelligence, you're becoming it. Your credibility, your connections, your digital footprint, all of it can be weaponized. You stop being just a person with skills and start being a vector of influence, a tool of psychological operations that works precisely because it doesn't look like one. That's the real fight over you. Not to turn you into an old-school spy, but to transform you into a living instrument of narrative power in a war that most people don't even know is being fought. Number 11. They don't just want you for what you know. They want you to become what you don't yet know. They're not looking at you as you are today. They're looking at the version of you that hasn't been built yet, the version they can shape, mold, and sharpen into something uniquely useful to them. Your current skills are just a starting point, a foundation to be dismantled and rebuilt. Intelligence agencies operate on long timelines. They don't simply hire experts, they create them. They identify raw potential, hidden instincts, and untested capacities, then engineer the circumstances that will bring those qualities to the surface in a way that aligns with their objectives. This is why their recruitment process feels different from a normal job. It's not about your CV or your current expertise. It's about your adaptability, your psychology, and your willingness to evolve under intense pressure. They're asking themselves, if we invest in this person for 5 or 10 years, who could they become? They're not just thinking about what you can do now. They're already imagining the campaigns, operations, or networks you could run in the future once they've trained you, exposed you to certain environments, and rewired how you think. This approach also means they're not only assessing your strengths, they're evaluating your malleability. How easily can your worldview be shifted? How deeply can your identity be reprogrammed? Can you be pushed beyond your limits without breaking? In their world, a recruit who arrives fully formed is far less valuable than someone who can be reformed into exactly what they need. It's not just recruitment, it's cultivation. But hidden inside this cultivation is a risk. The future you they're selecting may be unrecognizable to the person you are now. The values, instincts, and boundaries you hold today can be systematically reshaped until your loyalties and even your sense of self align perfectly with their mission. By the time you realize it, you're no longer just doing their work. You've become their work. This is why their interest in you isn't simply flattering, it's strategic. They don't just want your present self. They want to own the process of your becoming, to weaponize the parts of you you haven't even discovered yet. In their hands, your potential isn't just a promise, it's a project. And once you're inside, that project stops belonging to you. Number 12. The recruitment war is also a containment strategy. When two powerful agencies compete for you, it's easy to see it as validation, as proof that you're extraordinary. But in the world of intelligence, competition isn't always about winning you. It's about denying you to someone else. What looks like a door opening may actually be a door closing, a calculated move to lock you down before a rival agency can. In this sense, recruitment isn't just about empowerment, it's about containment. It's a preemptive strike disguised as an invitation. Agencies like the CIA and MI6 understand that certain individuals represent strategic value, not just for what they know or can do, but for what they might know or might do in the future. If they see that potential in you, their priority may shift from development to denial. They're not thinking, how can we unleash this person's talents, but rather, how can we keep them from being unleashed elsewhere? In intelligence work, controlling the absence of a threat is often as important as controlling a resource. This is why their offers can feel so intense, even rushed. The speed, the secrecy, the insistence on exclusivity, all of it is part of making sure you don't drift toward another flag, another ideology, another network. By pulling you into their system under the banner of opportunity, they neutralize the risk of you becoming a tool for someone else. It's less like hiring and more like quarantining. The paradox is that the more valuable you are, the less freedom you have. The very qualities that make you desirable, your insight, your access, your adaptability, also make you dangerous in the hands of a rival. So the offer becomes a velvet trap, a way of containing your potential under the guise of rewarding it. Once you're inside, non-disclosure agreements, compartmentalization, and loyalty protocols ensure your talents are locked to one entity alone. In this way, the recruitment war reveals something about the agencies themselves. They fear each other as much as they fear losing control. You're not just a recruit in their eyes. You're a contested territory. Winning you isn't always about deploying you. It's about denying your power to anyone else. And in that sense, the offer on the table may be less of a launch pad and more of a leash. Number 13. They're not recruiting a person. They're recruiting an ecosystem. When an intelligence agency looks at you, they don't just see a single individual. They see a gateway. In their eyes, you're not just a person. You're an ecosystem. Your friendships, your mentors, your professional contacts, your community ties, even the groups you casually interact with online. All of these form a living map of influence, reach, and opportunity. To them, recruiting you is not simply onboarding one operative. It's unlocking an entire network. This is why their interest in you can feel so disproportionate to your current status or skills. It's not only about what you personally know or can do. It's about the doors you can open without even realizing it. Your digital footprint alone, emails, chats, social media connections, group memberships, represents a trove of data they could never easily buy or hack without raising alarms. By recruiting you, they gain lawful, seamless access to a web of people and information already connected to you. And this access is not just passive, it's active leverage. Your credibility within your community, your reputation, your shared history with people. All of these allow an agency to move through worlds they normally couldn't reach. You might be the person who can make the right introduction, vouch for someone, get a message through, or plant a seed of influence in a place they're blind to. By getting you, they get your ecosystem's trust without having to earn it themselves. This also means their investment in you is far deeper than it appears. They're not merely training you for covert work. They're reshaping how your ecosystem interacts with you so it interacts with them. They'll test your loyalties, measure your influence, and map your community to figure out how to best weaponize it. You may think you're being groomed for a role, but in reality, your life and your connections are the role. This is the unspoken truth. The agencies aren't just recruiting people anymore. They're recruiting worlds. In the age of data and interconnectedness, one person can be a portal to thousands of others. You're not a name on a file. You're a living network. And in their calculus, gaining one such network can be more valuable than recruiting a dozen traditional operatives. By getting you, they get everything you're attached to. And that's the real prize. Number 14, this isn't just about you. It's a reflection of how desperate their future has become. When two of the most powerful intelligence agencies on Earth are circling around one person, it's easy to mistake it for flattery. It feels like proof that you're rare, valuable, and exceptional. But in reality, their desperation tells a much darker story, one not about your greatness alone, but about their decline. Agencies like the CIA and MI6 were once staffed with people who defined eras, masterminds who could shape the world's narrative rather than merely react to it. If they're fighting over a single individual now, it means their well of visionaries has run dry. They're not scouting talent with a bold new vision. They're scavenging to survive the one they've already lost. In intelligence, power is supposed to be about foresight, planning, and control. When an agency begins poaching aggressively, it's a sign that they've lost their grip on the future. They're no longer cultivating people from within, building leaders who understand their culture and long-term strategies. Instead, they're raiding external sources, hoping to import brilliance like a commodity. This is not the mark of strength. It's the behavior of an institution whose edge is slipping, whose internal ecosystem has grown stale and risk-averse. Their battle over you becomes, in this sense, a confession. It shows they're no longer producing the kind of minds they once did, the kind who could innovate intelligence itself. They're not just seeking your skills, they're seeking your vitality, your rawness, your untamed way of thinking, because their own halls have grown too bureaucratic and predictable. You're not a recruit. They're trying to siphon off your future. And here's the uncomfortable truth. When institutions are this desperate, they're not looking to empower you. They're looking to absorb you. They want to graft your originality onto their crumbling structures to prolong their relevance. That's why the recruitment process feels more like a scramble than a strategy. It's not about you fitting into their world. It's about them clinging to yours. If anything, their tug of war over you is the clearest proof that their power isn't what it used to be. The stronger an institution is, the less it needs to compete for individual talent. The more it competes for you, the more it reveals its own erosion. In that light, their interest in you isn't a compliment. It's an indictment of how far they've fallen. The battle between the CIA and MI6 over a single individual is far more than a recruitment story. It's a window into the hidden mechanics of power, influence, and the modern battlefield of intelligence. From the moment they set eyes on you, they're not evaluating your resume, your degree, or even your present skill set. They're calculating your potential, your loyalty, your ability to hold secrets, and your resilience under pressure. They're dissecting your background not to protect you, but to understand where you can be shaped, where you can be contained, and where your weaknesses can be leveraged. Every interaction, every opportunity is a carefully designed test to see if you can withstand manipulation, scrutiny, and isolation while still remaining functional and discreet. This is a war not just for your abilities, but for your allegiance, your silence, and ultimately your future self. They don't want the person you are today. They want the version of you that hasn't even been built yet, the version they can cultivate into an instrument of influence and perception. Your networks, your digital footprint, your connections, they're not incidental. They're a sprawling ecosystem that extends your value far beyond yourself. By recruiting you, they aren't merely gaining an operative. They're gaining access to entire worlds, information channels, and nodes of influence that you may not even fully realize you control. At the same time, their struggle over you exposes the reality of their own desperation. The fact that two of the most powerful intelligence agencies are competing for a single individual speaks less to your worth and more to their declining ability to produce visionaries internally. They're scouring the outside world for minds capable of thinking, influencing, and acting beyond the limits of bureaucracy. Your potential becomes both a prize and a lifeline for institutions that are fighting to stay relevant in a world where information and perception are the new currency. The truth is this: if you are the focus of such a battle, it is a reflection of your unmatched potential. You are seen, measured, and coveted in ways few can understand. Every test you endure, every observation, and every careful interaction is a testament to the power you inherently carry. You are not just a recruit. You are a force multiplier, a node in a global network, a pivot point agencies wish they could control but can never fully own. If this revelation resonates with you and you want to dive deeper into the hidden truths of influence, power, and the unseen battles shaping our world, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button to support content that exposes the extraordinary. Share this video with others who need to hear it. And leave a comment with your thoughts, because your perspective matters. Join this community and let's explore the unseen together. God bless you.